All right, Carrie. Well, I think we are going to be streaming live here in just a minute. It looks like everything is connecting like it's supposed to be. It'll be just 1 second. Thank you for anybody who is joining us. I believe that we are ready to go here. Let's see if we're live. There'll be about a 20-second delay. All right, we are off and running. So there's about a 20-second delay between us talking live and when it shows up on the website. But we should be in pretty good shape. Hopefully, we've got a few folks watching. I know Carrie Sutton was excited to tune in. But let's go ahead and get started. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What can you do to improve your customer experience? That's what we'll be talking about on this episode of Story Connect Podcast. My name is Andy Johns with WordSouth. I'm your host, and I am joined today by Carrie Huckabee, who is our Director of Strategy and Training. And a lot of you probably know Carrie from her time in the telecom industry. But Carrie, it's always good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, Andy. Good to be here.
We are going to be doing this podcast. Hopefully this is working well and everybody's seeing it properly on the NTCA Marketing and Sales Conference virtual booth that we have for WordSouth. It looks like it has just logged me out, so I'm going to have to get back in there and check that again, but I think it's working. I just can't see that it's working. But we're just going to trust that it is.
Gotta love technology.
That's right. That's right. If you are Carrie or anybody else, if you're watching, just go ahead and let us know. But so if you're listening to the audio portion of this podcast, if there's any reference to a chat or anything on screen, that's what's going on. Wanted you to be aware there. If you are watching at our booth as we're streaming live on YouTube, embedded into the booth, then hopefully you enjoy getting to see this. You get to notice the quarantine beard that I've got going on and all of that. So, well, Carrie, let's jump in. If you've what you've been doing a lot of recently with WordSouth has been customer experience training, and I'd like to get into that with where that comes from. So you and I did a presentation a couple of times back, maybe a year or two ago, based all on a couple of books. And that's kind of, in my mind at least, that's kind of where it started. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about those books and where the idea for this approach to customer experience training came from.
Sure. The books that I think started it all, or that really maybe turned the light bulb on for us as far as customer experience, was the book by the Chip brothers, or the Heath brothers.
Heath brothers, yeah.
Chip and Dan.
Right.
And they wrote The Power of Moments. And it's really about paying attention to the moments that you can create, or the moments that we remember in our life, and what creates those experiences. And so that book, I just recommend that to everyone. It's just a really good read and has a lot of good points in it. The other one that goes along with that, I think hand in hand, is The Effortless Experience, that was written by Matthew Dixon. And he talks about retention and loyalty and building customers that are creating customers that will stick with you. And he talks about the customer effort, about making sure that you pay attention to the customer's journey and where you may be throwing roadblocks in their way to do business with you. So these books really go hand in hand, because I think we talk about customer experience and everything goes into this customer experience. There's more to it, but really studying your customer journey and your customer processes and things like that leads you also, I think, to the power of moments. So I just felt like those books really went together well as far as studying your whole business structure and how you do things.
Right. Now, there we go. Now, with the books, and particularly the one most familiar to me, the Heath brothers books, if that's written obviously not for telcos and electrics, for broadband providers, written for everybody, but I think it adapts itself well to what I mean, in any industry, but particularly the industries that we work with, what are some ways, as you've done these trainings, or when we did our presentation, what you've heard from folks, that you think those books really do apply well to folks that are providing broadband for people?
Oh, well, I think that the book talks about, for example, that when you go to Disney World or you go to Disneyland on a trip back when we could, that you don't really think about the kids in the car that they're saying, when are we going to get there, or the traffic jams, or the hot weather, or the trunk is full of luggage. You think about those moments when your kids come out and they have their Mickey Mouse ears on, or they see the parade or the fireworks. It's those moments within that trip or that interaction or that event that you remember. It's not all the other stuff. So the Heath brothers really talk about being in tune with your customers and being able to identify those moments when you're talking to a customer that you can create an experience that they remember and walk away. They walk away feeling good. 70% of the buying experience is based on how you make customers feel. It's when they leave. If you get a negative experience, you'll try to not go back and have another one. So customers are looking for that. But in the book, they talk about how to elevate a moment, how to use insight to connect with the customer. They talk about connection, and they talk about pride. And those are the things that you and I talked about mainly in our presentations when we were speaking about customer experience, of being able to identify those moments and take advantage of it so that your customer, feels great about doing business with your company. And whether that's broadband or whether that's TV service or something else, consumers are the same when you're, talking to them and trying to get their business.
Right, that's true. Now, as you've done, because you've done a few of these trainings, a couple of them, both for telco and electric folks, what have been, do you think, the big takeaways for folks as you've done those training sessions?
I think that just paying attention, or we all get busy. We get in that day to day of answering the phone and customers walking in and, hey, they've got a problem, or my bill's not right. You kind of get into that rut, I think, of just taking care of day to day business. And I think some of the things that they took away from that is that there are moments with customers during the day that you recognize that you can elevate that moment, or you can make it a little more personal. You can recognize that they have been a customer of yours for 10 years, that they've been a member for a long time, or they've just been a good customer. So there are things that all of us can stop and take a moment and recognize what value that consumer brings to your company, and just taking a moment to make a connection. So that opportunity and those possibilities are there. We just have to recognize when to take advantage of them. So I think that our training kind of makes them think, oh, this happens several times during the day. I probably need to take a moment and appreciate my customer.
Yeah, take a moment to make a moment.
Yeah, take a moment. Sure. Mm-hmm.
And I know that it goes back to what a lot of us have heard over and over again, that it's so much easier and cheaper to retain and to upsell existing customers than it is to go out and acquire new ones. Obviously, it all ties back together if they're having a better experience. So this is not just fluffy feel good stuff. I mean, this is stuff that certainly affects the bottom line.
Sure. Yeah, I think in all my years in marketing, I knew that it cost a lot to acquire a customer, but and it costs much less to just retain one and try to keep them. And sometimes we forget about those customers that have done business with us for a long time. We forget to recognize what value they bring to us. So and customers are, regular customer service is reactive. It's not really proactive. And so you're answering calls and taking calls and waiting on customers every day. And that type of customer service probably doesn't build a whole lot of loyalty, but it can definitely tear down loyalty if it's a negative experience. But on the as far as making a customer feel good, it really goes to taking that time to recognize them and like you said, create that moment with them that as they walk out, they feel better about it and they feel good about doing business with your company. So we definitely need to be paying attention to the customer experience for the customers that have been here with us for a long time, not just the ones that are signing up today with whatever our promo is.
Sure, and sometimes it's so easy. I know the example that we used in our presentation. It was not a costly one. It talked about the hotel. I think it was the Magic Castle, or I forget the
Mhm,
exact name of it. It was in the LA area. And one of the things that the customers always talked about was the popsicle hotline, which
mhm,
was they had a little phone out by the swimming pool. And when you picked up the phone, somebody answered and said, "Popsicle hotline, how can I help you?" Somebody would deliver out on a silver platter the popsicles right there on the pool. And how
mhm,
much did that cost the hotel to do? You already have staff there, so you had to buy a tray and a
mhm,
supply of popsicles, which are dirt cheap. But they said every single customer mentioned that in their survey at the end,
mhm.
because it made such an impact, such an impression on them. So it doesn't take a whole lot of money all the time, just a little creativity, a little stepping outside the box to make something like that happen.
And that right, and that story is in The Power of Moments, and goes into great detail about that and how good their ratings are. But you and I also talked about in the presentation that how easy would it be for us to say, "Oh, let's just push the ice cream cooler
Right.
out to the swimming pool and let them get their own popsicle." So it wasn't really necessary just the popsicle; it was the effort that they went into to have the red phone that they called
Right.
and then having it delivered. So it was just that extra piece.
Right. That definitely made the difference.
Mhm,
So, with the training that you've done, one of the things that we can also do for folks that you have done is secret shopping. And I
mhm,
wondered if there was anything that you wanted to share. Let's leave names out to protect the guilty and the innocent.
uh-huh.
But are there any things that you learned from that secret shopping experience, or anything that you wanted to share in terms of how you felt like that was valuable?
Sure. I think mystery shopping or secret shopping is always valuable, and it should be something that you do yourself or have your friends do, or we can do that. But what I think most of the time I have seen that you think your processes are easy to understand, or you may assume your consumer knows more than what they do when they sign up for service, or they come in asking for questions. Sometimes we have to step back and see what that customer journey is really like. We can assume all day long what we think it's like, but until you put on the customer shoes and actually walk through it and walk through your processes, look at your website, pick up the phone and call your office, see how long you're on hold, see if the CSR is knowledgeable, MSR, knows about broadband. They can answer your questions and they're confident. Just that perception face to face and over the phone is real important. So sometimes those mystery shopping trips or those results can be eye opening. And, we shouldn't be afraid of them because just doing them shows that you care and you're proactive about your service and things. So I think mainly we walked away from the mystery shopping that I've done in the past with, oh, we thought we did that a little better than what we thought, or oh, we probably need a brochure or something on our website that explains that better. So some of that's mainly what has come out of the mystery shopping.
Just like having that outside opinion and that outside perspective, I think makes a big difference. Well, as we're wrapping up, and it looks like we do have a good number of folks at the booth. Looks like Christy's on there, Carrie's on there, Laura may have popped in, Haley. So a couple of folks. Hopefully, y'all are enjoying it. But as we're as you think back to the trainings that you've done or your experience working with a lot of different broadband providers, what are some of the, are there a few of the same hurdles that folks always struggle with, whether it's customer journey or customer experience? What are some things that you've noticed that are just always constant problems that organizations, the telcos and electric providers always seem to struggle with?
Oh, I think communication is we've heard that for years, is making sure that everyone knows what's going on and what the plan is, and also just providing resources and providing information. If you're electric going into broadband service, your MSRs have not dealt with that before. So, really be mindful of how much they can absorb in a time period, starting that training to where they understand broadband terms, they understand what the member expectations are going to be. Just quieting that fear and instilling confidence that they can do it, that you're going to be right there to support them. So I think I see that in all companies. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to go into a company and they go, oh, our communication is
All perfect here.
It's
Yeah.
all perfect here, 100%. Everyone in the company knows everything that's going along and all that. So I think that's the part I really love about the training, is because I've been in the industry for many years. I won't say how many, but I've been in many years, and I've been in their shoes, and I know how they feel when they're about to launch a new product or a new service. So it doesn't change, but I think we can continue to get better just by providing more information earlier in the process, or as early as possible in the process. So that would be my 2 cents, Andy, on that.
Excellent. The last question I had for you, if there is a company out there that says, well, we do customer service, but I don't know that we've really ever looked at customer experience or taken that approach to it, aside from contact Word South about seeing if we can help with training. But what is some advice that you would throw out to those folks who are just kind of getting their, dipping their toe in the water to really step up and start focusing on that customer experience?
Well, I would start examining, processes and things that, what the customer goes through. I would keep in mind that, and, I found this stat other day and I use it from the Gardner study. It said a study said that 80% of executives believed they had exceptional customer experience. But when they asked their customers, only 8% agreed.
Whoa.
So that's a pretty big, distance between what the executives think and what the customers think. So
80% to 8. Wow.
yes, 80% to 8. So, there was definitely a disconnect there. So I would start with your customers, surveying them, would be one of the things. And I would be sure that I would talk about the differences in customer service and customer experience. Customer service definitely goes into that customer experience bucket, but every single interaction with your company, your website, your social media, face-to-face, phone calls, an interaction with your lineman, an interaction with your technician, every one of those goes into that customer experience bucket. So, my recommendation would start with your customer survey, and then start looking at your processes and procedures within your company to see what obstacles are being thrown up to the customer, making it difficult for them to do business with you.
Excellent. Sometimes it's just as simple as asking. You want to know something?
It
Ask
is.
somebody. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, it's
Great.
easy as that.
She is Carrie Huckabee. She is the Director of Strategy and Training at Word South, a telco marketing legend, even though she doesn't like it when I say that.
It means old. I think it means old, Andy.
Carrie, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate it. Bye, everyone.
I'm your host, Andy Johns with Word South. We've got a couple other webinars we'll be doing. I know I have a couple lined up for Thursday. I don't have any planned for the rest of today, Wednesday, but I've got a couple lined up for Thursday. So hopefully if you're at the NTCA Marketing and Sales Conference, the virtual Marketing and Sales Conference, that you'll stop by our booth and tune in for a couple of these tomorrow. I'll put some times up there where they're going to be. They'll be on the booth. Hope you've enjoyed it. And until we talk again, keep telling your story.